Right, do we get a musical performance too?
Oh my God.
Right, she brought that last time. Well, I didn't hear no doubt of her.
It's hauling around all my stuff. Everywhere.
We have a few members coming in, so just a second, we'll get going.
Well, right.
I'm good.
All right, good evening to all. It's 6:20 p.m. on April 15th. Or 14th, 2025. My name is Don Gosney, and I welcome everyone to the meeting of the West Contra Costa Unified School District's Citizens Bond Oversight Committee. All members of the public are welcome to speak on any issue tonight that is on the agenda. There are speaker forms on the table that must be turned in prior to the agenda item being called. We also offer an opportunity under public forum to speak on any issue under the control of the CBOC that is not on the agenda. Depending on the number of speakers signed up to speak, we request public comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Under public comment, with limited exceptions, the CBOC is not allowed to reply to comments or questions. I want to give everyone a chance to speak, so if you have something to say, please raise your hand to get my attention. I will call on speakers in the order that they get my attention. During staff presentations, please get the attention directly from the presenter. I want to remind everyone that we're being recorded and the system isn't as great as we might like. So when you speak, please speak loudly and clearly so you can be recorded where others can hear and make out what you're saying. If a motion is to be made, the maker of the motion and the seconder needs to state their name first so there's a clear recording of this. We need to maintain a quorum of 4 members in the room. If we have fewer than 4 for any reason, the way we conduct our meetings changes. If you leave early, or even if you have to leave for a bio break, if we fail to have the requisite quorum, the minutes will have to take note. We can continue to have presentations, but no votes. The goal of our meetings is to conclude our business in 2 hours, but if we need to extend, this will only occur with the consent of the body. If we run out of time, some items may need to be deferred to a future meeting. Please stay focused on our real purpose, to oversee the bond funds and the bond projects. Everything else is just icing on the cake. 2 of my responsibilities at these meetings include keeping one of my eyes on the agenda, all the while keeping the other eye on the clock to do my best to get as much out of our work completed and still get us out of here in 2 hours. As of January 1, legislation went into effect with regards to remote participation at Brown Act meetings. Last month, I shared a reprint from Schools and College Legal Services of California explaining how this might affect us. Ms. Payne also provided similar information, but there appears to be contradictions. I submitted a series of specific questions that she can provide to the district's legal team, where I've asked for a written response from someone who has actually passed the bar. In the meantime, I will be liberal in my handling of remote participation. Better to be inclusive rather than exclusive. Does our translator need to make an announcement?
I'll just make the announcement. I've already set her up. So if you need translation tonight, please go to the globe at the bottom of your screen to request translation.
Spanish, yeah. I'm talking about we're not done. Talking future agendas. Okay, a few days ago, Ariel G's term on the CBOC expired. She told me that between family and work, her plate is full and she needs to commit to these priorities. Ariel was a valuable asset to the CBOC as she will be missed. In the meantime, we have a vacancy in the role of secretary. For this meeting, I will take care of the minutes. Next month, we'll agendize the possibility of electing a new secretary or some other path. Also, since our joint meeting, Lorraine Humes has termed out. This means that we are down to only 7 members and we're short a mandated CBOCer. This will require a concerted effort to rebuild the CBOC. Okay. As the secretary, I will take roll call. I am here. Brendan Havenar Dalton here. GMA.
Yeah.
Thank you. Andrew Butt called in. He had a medical procedure this afternoon. Did not know if he would feel good enough to come. He still may show up. Wouldn't count on it though. Andrea Linden.
Here.
Okay, Tashiana Johnson.
Here.
And Lynn Johnson. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 out of the 7 are here. We have a quorum. Also tonight, we have an applicant for the taxpayer position, Bill Kloss. I've invited him to sit at the grown-ups table. A good chance that he'll be joining us as an official member shortly. Again, I prefer to make things more inclusive than exclusive. I don't like pushing people out to the back. I've had to sit there myself too many meetings. I didn't feel welcome. When? I wasn't welcome. Anyway, we had a chance to, anyway, sorry, I had to write a few things down. We had a chance to look at the agenda. If we have, is there any problem with accepting it as presented? Okay, item D, agenda approved. Do we have anybody signing up for public comment? Public.
I see no hands at this time.
All right, we're moving right along. Okay. We have a lot of business to take care of tonight. We've got more items on the agenda than we could possibly get taken care of. Okay, I fully expect to have to defer some of these as well. But we will focus mostly on the financial reports and the status reports, and we'll deal with some of the basic things like the consent calendar, a few of those other minor issues only take 10 seconds. Then we will deal with the annual report, because that will be taking most of our time. We have time left over. I do want to reserve at least 5 minutes at the very end for the future agenda topics and an extremely brief chair report. Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and turn things over to Ms. Mijia. I'm noticing Ms. Payne is not here. You didn't fire her, did you?
No, unfortunately, she has a conference to attend this week.
Good
So
for her.
she is not joining us, but I will be presenting the project status. And Ms. Falk will be presenting the financial reports.
Cool.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome to April. Thank you once again for having me. I'm Ellen Mejia Hooper, the Director of Facilities Planning and Construction, and I'm bringing forth our project status updates. This month, we are continuing with our major projects. So at Steech, we are completing schematic design. Kennedy, we have our modernization project with phase 1.2 and DSA back check. And since this was published, we have made it out of DSA. So that's exciting for that one. For phase 1.3, we're in construction documents and design development for phases 2 and 3. At Richmond, we have submitted to DSA the utility make ready package. We have construction documents in progress for phase 1 with we have a scheduled date for submission for increment 2 package, which is the building package. And that will happen mid-May. Design development for phases 2 and 3. At Pinole Valley, we have the Hillside project where we also have our submission date for DSA. So that's our next regulatory agency before we can begin construction. At Lake, we are still building, increment 2, which is our, main phase of construction. We're in phase 2 of that build out. At Kennedy High School, we're closing out the admin relocation, and the bidding has been completed for the demolition project. So we are still getting the final paperwork together to for a notice of to proceed to OVRA for the demolition projects, which will start any day now. And at Shannon, we are still under construction. Any questions on the chart before we move into the updates? Good there. Okay, so Lake is our campus replacement project. As I said, we're in phase 2, which is our kindergarten and cafeteria facilities. The kindergarten, we are sheetrocking the walls. So the drywall's going up, and at the multi-purpose room or cafeteria, we have what we call the butterfly canopy, which is our outdoor dining structure. The steel has now gone up. If you remember last month, we were talking about drilling the pier foundations. Well, the piers are in and the steel is up. And soon we will be constructing the roof on that.
Ellen, I'm sure that you've told me this in the past, but my mind is getting scrambled. Why do we call it the butterfly canopy?
Well, it's hard to tell here, but it actually bends up on both sides. So it slants in 2 ways. And so it forms butterfly wings.
Okay.
We have a butterfly canopy at every entry at this campus. So all the entries have the slanted roof line that creates that invert. And when we were originally designing this campus, the inspiration for the color scheme was related to the monarch butterfly. Just go with me on this.
You got a good imagination, I'll go with it.
Yeah.
I'm just worried about 10 years from now, if somebody's gonna be around to be able to explain that. It's like the roof of Dijon. People say, what is that? Well, that's the open book.
There you go.
They
See?
people don't know that, because
But
there's no signage out there.
the key of design is not necessarily for everybody to understand, but the logic underneath it is what ends up creating a cohesive scheme.
I mean, even at the science building at Hercules, where all around the circumference, you've got the placement of the planets, all properly distanced.
Right.
Again, 10 years from now, will anybody even know this? And I just don't know, unless
Well,
there's,
there is a sign on the third one that says Earth. So if you look at it and it's the third one over and you see Earth, our little scientific minds that are blossoming in this building might come to the conclusion that as the third bar over being Earth, maybe the other bars are basically representing the other planets.
if I can, at UC Berkeley, starting at the sidewalk in front of the track and field stadium, they did the exact same thing on the sidewalk. And you just keep walking along, and before you get to Pluto, you're in Oakland.
There you go.
It
See?
really demonstrates, especially when you're the one on foot. That's about 3 miles. Cool though.
Yeah, it's Easter eggs. They're fun. All right, so, and we're in Easter season. Who knew? At the Shannon Multi-Purpose Room building, we are building a cafeteria to replace the portable cafeteria that's there. This is a little bit of a zoomed out picture so that you can actually see the existing classroom buildings in the background. And so you can see that we've got our scaffolding up. Our waterproofing layers are there. The lath is being applied as the base coat for the stucco, or the structural support for the stucco. And so we're working on the exterior. And in the interior, some of the walls are getting closed in with insulation, which means in at least the kitchen space, we have completed rough-in, or the what that is basically the plumbing, electrical, and mechanical items that go within the wall are placed. That way you can put the insulation on, and we're preparing for drywall. Some of the drywall has been applied to the upper areas to allow us to install some of the ductwork. So that's what's happening at Shannon. At the Kennedy admin relocation project, this project was really setting us up to be able to demolish the 100 and 200 building. And we're basically done. So the last things that happened was we needed to complete the underground line it's through Pantera is the provider that provides us our internet. So the low voltage fiber optics was brought into the campus, into our new MDF, and we connected all of the intermediate distribution frames, or IDFs, that are in each individual building, connected them to the main frame. And so now we are running on a new internet line that was relocated, and that was the last piece of the project. And so you won't see the admin relocation anymore. Next time you're going to see the demolition project. So that's what we're rolling into. Then here are our design updates. So for the Stige Elementary School rebuild campus, last month, we had a staff meeting to review the learning space design. We've had schematic design come in, and preliminary estimate completed, and the bid process for demolition. So beyond doing the work to be able to get the design going, the architect was also producing documents to be able to bid out demolition. And so that has been bid, and they're currently processing that bid so that we can take it to the board, which is planned for the May 14th board date. So a lot of different things happening to try to speed this project along. So we have a lot of different activities happening, which is why you see the "you are here" almost everywhere in the diagram. At Kennedy High School, the modernization project is, we had a great event, and thank you, Dawn, for the beautiful stairway picture, for saying goodbye to the 100 and 200 building. We have, as I said previously, gotten approval now for phase 1.2. Which is great news. That rolled through DSA a little faster than we anticipated, which we're excited about because it's going to end up blending nicely with 1.1, and we can do some of the utility work, which is the main part of phase 1.2 over the summer, which will limit the impact onto the campus. For those that might not remember, phase 1.2 is the building pads and utilities for the new admin classroom 2-story building, as well as the new combination dining and performing arts space, which is the main buildings that are being built in phase 1. At Richmond High, I just came from the all staff meeting, so that was fun. We were able to give updates to the full staff about how we're going to be handling construction. We are going to have to do a bit of rework to the campus over the summer so that the main entrance to the campus is not going to be available. Next month we'll bring that forward. It was just within the time of what we have to provide for posting versus when things happen. It didn't quite make this presentation. We did go to open house and show some of the renderings of phase 1. We had both interior and exterior renderings, as well as the overall site plan to show families as they came to back to school or open house. The utility make ready package is that first submission to DSA, which is doing similar things as the 1.2 phase at Kennedy. It's really allowing us to rework the utilities and create the building pad before the DSA approves our main building package, and it's just a way for us to get construction moving. That always is the first step of putting up a building. So, those reviews always go faster through DSA because they're limited things for them to review. As long as our trenching is good, there's not a lot of comments, on our underground work. So, we're happy that that's getting submitted and that we plan on moving forward with that phase during the summer. We're continuing to have focus group meetings for both the phase 1 and phase 2 to really settle down the design for especially our specialty spaces. And then we have our regular reports out of our construction projects. And after that, we have our newsletters. So, any questions on the project updates? All right. We'll flow right into the financial reports then.
Sorry, is there any public comment?
Oh,
I need to make sure I ask that every time.
good plan. Let me just double check real fast. We do not see any hands.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Falk. I'm the fiscal coordinator. And next we're going to be viewing the financial reports. The first one is report 13. Yes, next is the variance report, report 13A.
Is there anything on report 13 that we want to highlight?
So,
This is important.
yeah, so if you want to look on the adjusted cash balance, we have spent 3.8 million in March.
Which page would that be on?
Report 13A.
13A?
Page 40.
40, thank you. Okay, but as far as 13, was there anything? No. That,
So the variance report kind of summarizes,
All right.
report 13.
Okay, so 40?
Yeah, page 40. It has our spending on the notes section. And then the next page is report 2.
for our new potential number, report number 2 is a critical report. It shows theoretically every month how much money has been budgeted, how much money has been spent on each of our 53 schools. As you're out there in the community, you're gonna have all kinds of people telling you, "I'm gonna spend anything on my school." We heard that about Kennedy High School, Richmond High School quite a bit. Until I showed them, well, we've already spent $86 million on it. Yeah, nobody's ignoring it. They said that no money had been spent on any of the students in Richmond, and we showed them over $850 million has been spent on it. This is, again, a very valuable tool.
And the column in the middle shows the expended for the current fiscal year through March.
Okay, before we get along, when we get to the annual report, as I've got a hard copy of one of the previous, the ones from 2018. I'm just gonna pass around if anybody wants to look at it while we're hearing this other stuff.
Back down to if we had an example, I found a
So if you
website that
scroll
helps.
down,
Really
Ellen.
good.
The page 2. We have our total spending as of March. And then the next report is our AP checklist for March.
I had a quick question. What's the difference, so in report 2, what's the difference between the 5th column and the 6th column? So one is expended, fiscal year 24-25 through March, and the other one is expended through also March.
So the second one is the committed balance. Those are our contracts. So our purchase order and contracts are encumbrances.
That's the 6th column, the
The committed balance? This one?
Yes, the committed
Or
balance.
what's the difference between the one before that and then the one?
So the expended through March is just this fiscal year.
Mhm.
And then the next one expended through March 31st is the entire. So not just this fiscal year starting July 1, the complete history as of.
Oh.
Since day one,
Okay, okay, thank you.
and I do mean day one,
Okay,
before time.
okay.
Melissa always likes to call it, year zero. Yeah. Which was about 2 decades ago.
And then the next report is our AP checklist for the month of March. It's 2 pages. That is the conclusion of our financial reports.
Do we have any questions from the CBOC on any of this? We have,
Yeah, are there any outstanding costs at Hercules? I'm just curious, or is that all completely wrapped up?
We are still closing out, Hercules. So we do have a few, change orders still left to process. We have not done the final payout. So we haven't paid the contractor every dime out of their contract yet. And we're still holding retention. So it normally takes us a few months past the completion of construction to be able to wrap up the financial completion of a project.
Well, also, I have a couple of students who are at Hercules and they love that, so
Good.
congrats. I just wanted to pass that along.
Thank you.
you said the right thing there.
Well, I mean, a lot of times when people move in, you hear
You
all
probably
of the
just
things
feel
that they
complaint.
don't like about the building.
I know.
You know, and so it's nice that every once in a while, it's like, no, it's a great building.
Yeah.
You still could have done these 3 things better, but it's a great building.
It is.
Take what you get.
I will every day.
Anything else?
I have a hand up.
From who?
Lorraine,
All right.
Miss Humes, sorry.
Hi, would you go back to report 2?
2.
Yeah. One more up, keep going,
Trying. The
keep
mouse is
going.
operating. Let me use the button. There we go.
Ah, now, I want the new people to see the final notes. See the notes over here, the final column?
Oh,
You'll
over
see
here.
a bunch of 1s. You'll see some 2s and 3s. Now, if the 1s, don't even worry about, the project's completed, you know, nothing's going to be done with that. It's the 2 and 3s that you want to look at. And if you go down to the next page where the key is, it tells you here what 2 and 3 are. I can't read it with my eyes, but maybe Ellen can read it for us. Oh, okay. So
footnote-
two of the facilities master plan are in the site legacy projects. Legacy projects are the ones, the master plan came into being in 2016. Before that, we have bonds from back, Proposition 39 was passed in 2000. So anything that we built from 2000 to 2016 are called legacy projects. And so you'll see that on there. And then footnote 3, that's the facility master plan starting in 2016. They did an update in 2020. And so 2 and 3 are the ones that you want to pay attention to, and they should sync up with the construction that's going on now and the construction that is listed in the overall chart type thing. Is that correct, Don?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to bring that to your attention. That's all.
Thank you. Anything else from the public?
I do not see any other hands.
Okay. Also, since mentioning the public, Trustee Smith Folds has been joining us since the beginning of the meeting. Trustee Reckler sent her regrets. She's got a family birthday party tonight. I know she didn't invite us, but I hope she's having a good time. But she wanted to let us know that why she was not participating today. Okay,
Then should I promote Lynn Johnson?
is Lynn here?
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have any idea when she showed up?
She's been here for a while.
For a while, okay, I'll put down, she's been here all the whole time. Again, we're being inclusive. Welcome, Lynn. Okay, our next items on the agenda are our consent calendar items. These include, the standing report that I, as the chair, give the board. I give another one on Wednesday night. I include the text of them in our agendas for the record. We also have the rolling attendance log. If you'll take a look at that on page 49, you might see it. I've thrown a whole bunch of colors in there and expanded it a little bit so we have a better idea about why a person was not in attendance. It may prove useful. On page 50, we've got the calendar for both the CBOC meetings and the school board meetings. I've been asking and asking, and finally at 12:04 this afternoon, I got a list of all the future board meetings for the rest of the year and beyond. So I will be correcting that. It was too late to get it on this one. But sometimes that is helpful. And then we have two sets of minutes, one for our last meeting on March 10th, and then for the joint meeting. We take our own minutes for the joint meetings. What we're looking for is not necessarily what the district is looking for. Okay, and we have a new member application, Mr. Klaus. Even though it has not been brought before an interview yet, we still want to put these on there. We had another one, Shamara McCoy, from a couple of months ago. We were supposed to get some information about whether it was legal for her to participate on the CBOC because the company she works for has a contract. I have not heard anything back. I've sent emails to Ms. Payne. Again, have not heard anything back. Just letting you know. Since we're mentioning the application for Mr. Klaus, I have one opening for a CBOC member to serve on the interview committee. This will likely be somewhere around noon. I have no idea what day it will be. Do we have a volunteer that wants to do that or is available to do that? Or do we just have me continue just as the sole representative of the CBOC? Anybody?
I might be able to, but it depends on the day, so.
At the time then, when I find out what our options are, I'll get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Ariel, because was our secretary, and she sat down with me. We went over in great detail about what should and should not be included in minutes and everything. She did an outstanding job on all these things. I will miss that. Miss everything about her, but I will miss that because it's nice. But do we have, if there's no questions, comments, or complaints, amendments, or anything on the consent calendar items? We'll just accept them as presented.
The only formatting thing is I think the attendance log has just, it's nice to have the colors or the gradients, but there needs to be some updates on just how things are graded. There's inconsistencies in how the boxes are colored. That's all.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. You and I can talk about that. And unfortunately, you're looking at the black and white version.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Yeah, which
the logic is off on the gradient or coloring of that chart. That's my only comment.
I just picked colors that jumped off the page at me. Okay, hang on, I'm coming through. Okay. We will be talking about the annual report. Okay, we have an annual report that Lorraine Humes is still working on, and she hopes to have it to us sometime soon. We didn't want to nail her down on any particular month, I didn't want her to lie to us. She'll have it when she has it. She's working hard on it and I trust her on it. But then we have the latest annual report, which Brendan Havenar-Doughton was drafting. We've got a copy of it on here. And I want to praise him on it. It's a nice report. Okay, but the question we've got to ask ourselves, what do you like? What do you don't like? You want to make any changes? Accept it as is. We're gonna do this by consensus. I don't like to have motions for this small of a group. If anybody have any thoughts about it, or do you want to give any kind of presentation on it?
Sure. Thank you, Don. I think, the approach I was taking is to try to, I think as you page through the 2018 report that's passed around now, this one is a lot more informal. And the idea is, to be accessible, to be straight to the point, offers essentially bite-sized sections to orient the reader to the work of the CBOC, some of the highlights that occurred during that fiscal year, and recommendations from the CBOC and whatnot. So that's the idea. I think my understanding, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, the only required element of the annual report is a statement based on a yay or nay if the district has been in compliance with bond spending, in alignment with the language on the ballot. So I think it would be important for us to confirm that, and then working from that very minimum viable product, building up our expectations with respect to what we'd like the annual report to look like, and then take note of our capacity to deliver that.
My next comment has nothing to do with the one you're presented here. It is for future one. That's one thing we can be discussing is what do we want in there? That's why I presented, I emailed you the one from 2016 last week. We got this one from 2018. 2016 was 46 pages, something like this. Is like 148 pages.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to them on. We'll get into discussion on that. But again, what do we want to see in there above and beyond one sentence that says, yes, we are in compliance?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a group decision. You'll have to make. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I have I'm looking through this. If Lorraine is working on it now, if there's a template that could be saved, especially, for sections 1 through 7, those are things that could be copied, because it is nice to have all of these things in the beginning about the WCC, CBOC, all of those things are very important, a lot of the reports we already have, the FAI reports, it's just how do we want to format them? How can we simplify
But
it?
are you talking about adding what you just described into the one that we're discussing now?
The one that we're discussing, yeah, if Lorraine is working on one currently,
No.
if she could save it and we use it as a template.
Well, she's working on one from several years back.
Yeah, but the language is all the same. We gotta change the dates and just make sure that we revise it, and oversee it. But it's something that can be copied and pasted though, to make it a little easier, Typing this all.
Tatiana, that was my reflection on that, looking at that too. For the first few sections, half the content was just base background information, right? So there's paragraphs we can replace with updated content. So that is a good idea.
Even the layout, if we have a file saved with this layout and font, we can easily go into a file and just edit it and make sure that we're being thorough, assign each other sections that we can do at home, on our free time. And it wouldn't really be a problem. Photos, like I said, we could make a Google Drive folder, or a folder that has all of the pictures of the new projects that have been done all year. And then we could just go in and grab them and paste them.
Well, one of the nice things about that particular report is I have it in Word format.
It's amazing.
I didn't write it all, but I had to assemble it all and format it. So and I have that.
And yeah.
And we can do next thing about Word as we do copy paste without any of the artifacts combined from the PDF.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I definitely wouldn't mind, having something to reference, or to just pull up, like, this is how it has to be formatted, because I mean, it's not book, so, and then I think the last couple of sections would be something for the chair to do,
What do you mean?
because it's very specific.
What were you volunteering?
Yes, I am. It just asks us things, so the bond program status report, the CBOC record, like basically in those audits compliance, all of those things, as the chair. Just number 5, really. And then we could kind of split up all of the other sections,
Okay. And
The appendices is what we have to focus on and really put a lot of effort into.
I think,
But sections 1 through 7, those can be copied and pasted.
Brendan,
I was just gonna mention that, we're digging out of the hole, right? So it would be nice, in my opinion, to try to like check the box for these older audits and then start doing kind of best practices moving forward with the current annual report for this most recent audit, where all of us have been around and involved in.
yeah, I mean, I've got my own thoughts about what should be in an annual report. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we're talking about this one right now. Like I said, it's a nice report. And we will be adding graphics in there. I didn't want to add them in at this point. Because it messes with all the formatting and everything, but it's something we can be taken care of. I threw a cover page on there because I think an annual report should have a cover page. I mean, if we're talking about future annual reports, that's one thing, but talking about this particular one, can we pretty much accept this one for how it's been presented? So we can then just put it behind us and move forward. Is that something that we can go with, or do we want to add more to it? I need to hear from you. This is not my decision, this is our decision.
And we can also bring it back for approval next month if we want to
Absolutely.
present it,
I think this one's super accessible. Like I would read this one, because it's like, okay, 5 minutes, I can do that, I think my only suggestion maybe, and I'm just thinking of this one, is back to Brendan's point of, addressing the question. So did the district do it? Were those funds spent? I just wonder if even on this first page, there's like a 1 sentence or 2 sentence, something that sort of addresses yes, the district is in compliance, or no, or maybe, or something, so that sort of the answer is right up front.
Yeah, I'm in
That's-
agreement.
that was my
I'd be happy to add that more front and center.
Okay. Okay. Anybody have anything else on this report? Okay, I've got one issue. Yeah, I don't believe that reports should be written in the first person. And on page 1 in particular, we are doing our job. It should, in my opinion, it should be the CBOC is doing it. As it's okay to be familiar up to a point. But what do you guys think about it? Stick with we, or?
I think I'm split on it. I'm 50-50. I mean, I see
You
that.
drafted it, we know, but
No, I mean, I can have an opinion on this. I think I like the way it's written because it's accessible, and that's the number one. That's the driving factor. And so, yes, it is informal.
I guarantee
This is
you,
a formality, and I feel like formality and any number of pages before you just get into the meat of it, or addressing the audience and inviting them in to read it, is, in my opinion, barrier.
I guarantee you, if we stick with the way it is right now, I will sleep just fine tonight. This is not the hill to die on with me. It's again, any thoughts from the rest of you? If nobody else agrees with me, that's a moot point.
Don?
Yes,
I just have you were talking about, the compliance statement. And according to the law, we have to say, whether four things were followed. One is, whether the projects, were, not, or the projects were filled, they line up with the proposition. And second, or with the bond, and second, with that, in that section is that no money was spent on salaries for the district, other than the district members that worked on the program part-time. The second thing is that you have to say that there is a list of projects that line up with the bond issue. And the third thing is that there was an independent financial audit and an independent performance audit performed in that year. And we have a little chart of that in the older annual reports in the chapter about the bond program. And it's a nice little, and then you just say that, yes, it was complete or not. But that's one of the main things, according to the law, we have to state in this report. So I think that should be highlighted.
it will be. We'd already discussed it briefly, not as using as many words as you did, but we'll take a closer look at the language of the of Prop 39 and the Ed Code. Make sure we are in compliance with what is supposed to be in the annual report. Okay. Any further comments on the familiarity, we versus the CBOC, or do we just leave it the way it is? I actually need to hear from you.
I guess
No opinion.
yeah, no.
Yeah, whatever.
That's great.
Well, I mean, it's telling me that there's not a big push one way or the other, so as far as I'm concerned, we just keep it the way it is. Okay? Then, we will take a look at the things we've talked about, making any amendments and revisions. We'll add some graphics. And we'll bring it back at a future meeting, hopefully next month. Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Like how simplified it is, the wording, you know? I
Sorry,
feel
we
like
can't
it's
hear
very easy for everyone to understand. Like even, why do we have school bonds? Like, I feel like that's something that even like, you know, students could understand, and I like the way that it's written.
Okay. Next part of our item M on the annual report starts on page 78. Essentially, what do we want to include? And I just threw some items down on here. Okay, I'd like to bring them up one by one and see what we feel about them. And we either accept them, reject them, or we add more things to. Okay. And it's, again, I appreciate an actual response when I ask the question. Okay. Should there be a cover?
Sure.
Okay, we got one person saying sure. We got three other people over the other side of the tables.
Absolutely, that's great.
Okay, we should have a cover, right? That's, okay. Should there be an index?
I think that maybe the first question for me is how long do we want these reports to be? Are we aiming for a certain, or under a certain length? Because that might determine how much of this.
And then I have a precursor question
Yeah.
to that, which is, you know, reading the member list of the CBOC from 2018, there's 17 members. So we're what are we now? Seven. You know, so the question is, what do we have the capacity to do? And, you know, doing an index and introduction, like these things in and of themselves are not a lot, but I mean, obviously, it'd be nice to have many of these, in my opinion. Can we deliver? Is kind of the question. So I think I would be happy to answer these questions with the caveat that, you know, it's gonna be hard to deliver that report. Now, maybe if we use the template, you know, we can get there, but just.
Well, that's the extreme of it. That's the largest annual report that we've had at that kind of thing. But a lot of these things are just reproducing what we've had in previous years. Okay, I mean, obviously an index is not, you've got to put down the page numbers for these things, but it's also a bit of a template on things that we have included in our annual reports in the past. I mean, a cover is not that big of a deal. And again, once again, it's to a large extent, it's using the cover from last year and the year before, maybe throw a photo or two on it. You know, a color, it doesn't take that long to do. I mean, and Brendan's actually right. I mean, we have to ask ourselves, what can we do? And I said, so sooner or later, I'll be asking for more volunteers to assist on this. And I say sooner or later, I mean in about 15 minutes. And that's once again, I said, I need a response, and a positive response from you. But should there be an introduction page? Yeah, exactly. Essentially, I'm sorry, on an index, it's handy to have an index, you know. Do I have to look through the whole damn thing to find what I'm looking for? Or can I look at the index and say, okay, it's on page 12? That's very handy to do. And it's, again, it's depending upon how much we put in there. I mean, that could be a third of a page, half of a page. This one size of the font. It can be very helpful. And it's an introduction page. It explains to the uninitiated, what are we looking at here? You know, what is this annual report supposed to be telling us? So again, it can be helpful. And we don't have to decide on everything tonight. This is an ongoing discussion. This annual report is a year-long process. Should there be? Go ahead.
I don't mean to derail it. We can go through these and just go for it. Yes or no?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
I started to do.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. We can
Yeah.
continue that.
Okay, and
I do have a clarifying question though.
sure.
Index and table of contents. My understanding is table of contents goes in the front. It's like brief, high level. Index usually is in the back and it's detailed, right?
You're absolutely right.
Like every word, key word that appears in the text is indexed, right? So I think I would say TOC, table of contents on that one.
No, proper choice of words. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Okay. Should there be a summary?
Yes.
I was gonna say that too. Some of these can be kind of intertwined,
Sure they can.
like the summary and the introduction.
Well, the summary, right, my opinion. The introduction tells it, this is what you're looking at. Okay, the summary says, this is what you've read, but also it incorporates the conclusions. Because on most of these things, we do have to have conclusions on them. It is also helpful on item number 5, a glossary of terms. All the time, I've done a lot of government work, especially with the Department of Defense, and I guarantee you, they're using the same acronyms, except the Army, it means one thing, the Air Force, it means another, and the Navy, completely different. And so it's helpful to have, if there are any acronyms, DSA. Now, we know what it is. Does the public know what it is? And there's a few more of those things. It wouldn't take long. The one that I had working with the Navy, it was 3 pages, 2 columns. That's how many acronyms they love. Okay, but for us, it might just be, again, a fifth of a page on there. Concluding remarks. Is this something that would be necessary or advantageous? Talk about item number 6 here.
Do we take raised hands?
Sorry?
Do we take raised hands or would you like to wait?
No, you can raise hands. Yeah,
Ms.
come
Humes?
Okay, Don, what I want to make a comment on is number 4, the summary. The summary we had is nice because if you have a 56-page report, not everybody's going to look at it. And the summary is just take something from each of the sections that is important and tells about it. And what I did was I sent out the summary, just the summary, to the board members, to the libraries, to the city councils, and with a link. So if they wanted to read the whole report, they could. But if you look at a 56-page report, you may not even, you say, oh, that's too long. I don't want to do it. But if you have a summary at the beginning, that's like a teaser, and they get an idea of what's in it. So it's a nice thing to have in the report.
Item number 7, what should be the focus of any mention of the financial and performance audits? You say that we had them, or
So,
So we agreed, but then we say the result of it, right?
I didn't hear you.
The result, the conclusion of it, of the report.
Yes, we need you to speak up. If I can't hear you, I'm pretty sure that they all can't hear you too. Thank you. All right, do we want to include anything about the board policy with regards to the CBOC? Either allowing us to do what we feel is necessary or restricting us? Because this is an annual report of the bond program, which includes the CBOC. And we will be coming up with a discussion, not tonight, but about the board policy. Because it was amended about 4 or 5 years ago. Been amended several times. I've been involved with 3 or 4 of the amendments.
so this one for me is that like it is a controversial issue. And I don't know, like there has been controversy around the board policy and our bylaws, and that I'm just stating that as a fact. So, you know, I would just I'd want to have a conversation about what the value of including this item is and why we're doing that. If we feel, you know, I don't know, I'll just go out on a limb and say, if we feel truly independent, like, do we need to include the board policy in our report? If we feel threatened by it, if our independence feels threatened by it, maybe we do need to. If we don't, then we don't. Comments on that?
I mean, we actually hit, go back in time, maybe 6 years ago, when we spent 2.5 years on negotiating with the superintendent, associate superintendents, the board of trust on there, and presented it to the board of trust. And you had members of the board of trust that refused to even consider it because it used the word independent in there. Didn't matter how many times that was in the statute. They didn't like the idea that we were independent, so they wouldn't even discuss it. This was a big contentious item. Yet another one that said he wasn't going to step on his checkbook, the people that finance his campaigns, so he wouldn't discuss it. So I mean, these kinds of things that have severe impact on our ability to do our job. Because it's something for future discussion and consideration. Item 9, did the audits present an accurate representation of the health of the bond program? On the financial audit, that's just numbers, crunching them. Okay, but on the performance audit, they downscoped that audit considerably in 2019 to eliminate our ability to interject things that we feel are important to the performance of the bond program. And even trying to bring it up at the joint meeting just a few weeks ago. We were told that's not important enough for us to discuss, even though for 6 years we're trying to discuss it.
So Don, I think 7 and 9 could be combined. I think, you know, results of the audits and then CBOC recommendations of omissions in scope, in the audit scope or something like that. Because I agree that there's some more that we could ask of the auditors.
We were actually forbidden from speaking with the auditor, performance auditors. As chair, I tried to phone them up just to to, when are you available to have a three-way phone conversation? He said, I'm not allowed to even talk to you about that without permission from the district. To schedule a phone conversation. I mean, that's how serious things were. Okay, item number 10, site visits. How many? Where were they? How well attended were they?
Yes.
Yep, I like it.
Okay, and in particular, for whatever annual report deals with this year, remote participation. Because that's going to be affecting our ability to do our work. Depending upon the final word we get from the legal team about whether people can participate remotely and not remotely, because that's, even that is a controversial item. Yeah, just because it shows that, this, yeah, Mr. Smith is, his phone is attached, doesn't mean he's actually there. We even had that at a city council meeting once, where one of the city council members in Richmond, it showed his little headshot picture, but he was actually at the El Cerrito City Council meeting. You don't do something on TV and try to convince people you're at two places at the same time.
I have a clarifying question. So I know we talked about the remote participation last meeting, but is remote participation allowed at the board meeting or the trustees? Or is that they're abiding by the same?
They're abiding by the same rules.
So no report, it's no remote participation with respect to voting on items in quorum.
There's very specific ways that somebody can participate remotely. I don't believe that at least all the board meetings that I've attended in the last year that we've had any remote participation.
And keep in mind, so the law changed as of January 1. So, anything was last year doesn't apply this year. And that's part of the confusion, because we're getting conflicting information and none of it's coming from an actual lawyer. That's why I wanted to submit this and get something on a letterhead saying this, here's the responses to your questions on that.
I'm sure we're working on that.
Sorry?
We're working on getting this one.
Item number 12, district support. Yeah, including in the annual report. What kind of support did we get from the district, either from the staff that we're dealing with here, or from the board, from the superintendent? Sorry?
Yes, we were supported.
Okay.
In as many ways as they could.
Okay. Finances, item number 13. We're talking about of course, the finances of the bond program itself. Because I would think that should be in the annual report.
Yeah, it's important.
All right. Item number 14, CBOC membership and efforts to expand membership. What efforts were actually made to bring us up to our full complement of 11? Is it being done by CBOC members, by the chair, by the staff, by the superintendent, by the board members? Just a mention of it on there, because people are going to be wondering, why do we have so many people on there? We had 28 people on the CBOC at one time, then down to 21, then down to 18, then down to 15, then down to 11. Yeah, that's what we were allowed, but we actually had that many people on there, and now why is it that we're not able to get the full complement of 11 right now? The pandemic certainly had an effect. The fact that we don't have nearly as many bond projects going on as we used to has an effect. Although, just the past year, we've increased that considerably. And we went from Lake Elementary School to all of a sudden Kennedy, Richmond, Shannon, and Stige. So we've expanded. That's builds a little bit more interest. Okay. Item number 15. Now, did we have meetings every month? How many did we have to cancel? Just a report on that.
I like that could be merged with number 14. It could be.
Well, you want to talk about a couple of sentences on either one, you can merge them together.
It could be a paragraph, 2 paragraphs,
Yeah.
they're all on the same page.
Yeah. We're talking about content and not, how we actually present it. On the joint meetings,
But I'm sorry, can you clarify? You said you wanted a report on it, so that would be a full report on each one of those items, 14 and 15, right?
No,
Not just a couple of sentences.
well, no, that is, not saying you need to have a separate report on either one of them.
Oh, right,
It can
so
be
they
combined into there, just like you suggested. Okay, but again, the joint meetings. Okay. Did we have 2 joint meetings? 1 joint meeting? Were they really joint meetings, or were they a board meeting where we were allowed to sit at the table? And was responsibility shared? Did we have equal participation in the agenda items that were being discussed or brought up on there? There's a value to the joint meetings. I've been saying this since 20+ years ago. It's a great opportunity for the CBOC and the Board of Trustees to actually discuss things. If we had time, it's not on the agenda today. I was gonna put it on there, but did we have that at the meeting a couple weeks ago? I would say no, we did not. But it just reporting on the joint meetings. Item number 17. A little bit of something about the WCC USD, again, for the uninitiated. The geographic boundaries, how many schools, list of trustees, the trustee districts, superintendent, how many students. They get basic information. Doesn't take long to put that kind of stuff in. What kind of outreach did we have? Okay, but for instance, right now, we've got the standing report once a month. Are we going to city council meetings? Are we going to the Rotary Club? We standing out on 37th and cutting, yelling at the cars going by? What kind of outreach do we actually have? To let the public know that we need new members, that we are overseeing the bond program, that we are just like them, we are just members of the public. Just briefly, item 19, what reports are routinely covered in the CBOC meetings? Yeah, obviously the status reports and the finances. You know, those are things that hopefully we're covering those every single month, every single meeting. But what else on there? Okay, I like the section in that 2018 where we have item number 20, CBOC members with their profiles. Again, that's the kind of thing that's copy and paste from year to year. Just as you rotate somebody out and rotate somebody else in, you just add it on there. But it's helpful to know, since we are representatives of the public, who's actually representing me? I would like to know about that. Yeah, what city are you from? Because I mean, we had a problem for a long time on the 5-member board of trust. People were complaining. 3 of the trustees lived in El Cerrito. And why you only had 2 representing everywhere else? What they weren't really paying attention to was that all 3 of them lived on the same street. You know, again, it's just in my opinion, it's just handy to know, nice to know. Who are these people? What makes them qualified to be overseeing our bond program? Should we include a section about the facilities master plan? And which ranks each one of the projects, each one of the schools? And you're providing a reference to it so that people know it exists. And they might want to look it up, because that's one of the few things you can actually do a search on the district's website and find it. Can't find a lot of other things, but you can find that one. Should we report about the forensic accounting investigation? A lot of you may not know anything about it because it's before your time, but we will be bringing that up in the next couple of meetings. Because that was a critical part of our bond program. We spent millions of dollars on it, $3.2 million on it, because it was borrowed money, $1.4 million in interest, $800,000 in legal fees. It hurt our reputation dramatically, but it is still an ongoing thing. We don't know the status of the 112 recommendations on there. So I think that this is the kind of thing that needs to be reported on it to some extent. And of course, then the projects worked on and completed. Yeah,
Like that could be merged with number 10.
again, we can merge anything we want. We're just talking about content.
No, understandable, but just merging them and just simplifying it a bit, you know, so that it doesn't have to be a full out report on each and every one
Yeah.
of these items.
Any other items that you guys all think should or should not be included in an annual report? Anything at all? Yes,
One thing I wanted to bring up was, and it was, the committees had to decide about the old reports on this. Now, the report lines up, the material in the report lines up with the audit. And the audit lines up with the fiscal year. So the audits that we just heard about at the joint meeting last month, that fiscal year was from July 1st. The material, the data taken for that was from July 1st on 2023 to June 30th on 2024. Then the audit company had to look at all that data, write a report. It takes about 9 months. So we didn't get the audits until March of 2025. You're going to put out a report on the fiscal year 23 to 24. Suppose you have elementary school X, and by June 30th, 24, they're still constructing it. But by April of 25, they finished. The decision is, do you want to mention that or do you keep it totally to that period? Because you'd be telling them a status, but it wouldn't be an up-to-date status. Now, we decided, or the committees in the past decided, if that school was done, we would mention the school was built, etc. But you have to make that decision where you want your content for that report to come, the dates to come from. That's all.
and that's a good point, Lorraine, because it's a subject matter that has come up in the past numerous times. Is this a report for 23, 24, or is it 23, 24 plus? Okay, you take a look at the audits. When do the audits actually stop? Do they talk about expenditures that were done 6 months after the reporting period? Or do they stop on June 31st of a particular year? I say, I mean, my belief is that you stop at the end of that period. I mean, and then if you want to just read chapter 2, you go get the next year's audit to find out, did they actually finish that high school? No. Stuff like that. It's a mistake, in my opinion, it's a mistake to start adding things in there that did not happen during that time period that you're reporting on. Again, we don't have to decide anything tonight. This is just things to be talking about. It's going to be coming up again next month. And so you get home, you start thinking about it, talking over with your family. Okay, kiddies, what do you think about this? And then come back and we'll try to figure out what we want to do. But do we have any other items that that you think we ought to include, not include?
Don,
Yes,
we had a comment from trustee Smith Foltz,
please.
who said, school board has categories for remote attendance. The majority of the board has to meet in person. There are emergencies and special circumstances categories. There are rules around if and when you have to publish your address. The superintendent would be best to understand all the ins and outs.
Okay, what she just described, for instance, about posting your address, that ceased to exist on January 1st. This is part of the problem. Trying to incorporate things, way we used to do things, the way things are as of January 1st. And that's why I want to get something in writing underneath the letterhead from somebody that's actually passed the bar. Because the information I received from Ms. Payne does not match up with the information I received from the law firm that represents hundreds of school districts across the state. And so what do we count on there? What is our restrictions? I don't know. But I appreciate her information. Anything else on on this. Yeah. I also included on page 79 and looks like 80, just tables of contents for information purposes only on previous reports, 2016, 2018. So you kind of see some of the things that they covered. Yeah, and yesteryear. Not saying that these what we have to do this, but again, something for you to look into and consider. Okay. Now the tough part. I need volunteers to help on this. At least one. I mean, of course, if Lynn wants to volunteer, she's on phone. Andrew, I'll get a hold of him and try to pigeonhole him if he wants to volunteer. But if any of you want to volunteer, it would be helpful. We can't just have one person doing it.
So we need 23, 24, and 24. That's right.
Well,
I mean, I get 24, 25, not as urgent as planned.
well, 24, 25, we really don't do a whole lot with it until the end of the 25
This time next year.
year.
Well, that would be this time next year, we get the audit for that.
Yes.
fiscal year, right?
You're right on that. My opinion, though, we do not have to wait for the audit. So much of what we're talking about has nothing to do with the audits. I mean, for instance, the profiles don't have anything to do with the audits. The purpose, the site visits. These are things that we can be involved with right now. Because if you try to do it all in just a very short period of time of over a month or 2 months, you'll be inundated. It's a year-long process. I said, what we used to do is we would gather information on a monthly basis. As an example, all the photographs that Ellen keeps giving us. I mean, we want to have illustrations there. And keep in mind, I'm sorry. I've been in journalism one way or the other for more than 50 years worldwide, newspapers, magazines. I used to lecture at the UC Berkeley Graduate School of Journalism. And I can tell you for sure, for certain, you never have a double page spread without an illustration on it. People don't read it. They learn more from the captions underneath the photograph or a drawing than they do from the actual text. It's the graphic that grabs their attention. Okay, and they say, hey, there's an article here too. So gather these photographs, intersperse them in. And it helps to attract people so that they don't put it down. Because, I mean, an annual report is not all that exciting. It's almost as exciting as the financial audit. It's just numbers on a page. And so, but gathering the photographs, you don't have to try to do it. You go back over a 12-month period and try to gather them all at once. You do it as we go along. And I'm sure that we can make arrangements with Ellen so that all these fine pictures that she is sharing with us in her reports, we don't have to pull them off to the PDF, that maybe she can send us the high-res images. I'm sure that she can. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to. But she's that kind of gal. She wants to help out. Right? You notice I didn't look you in the eyes when I said that.
Yeah, you happily volunteered me, but no, this is part of the reason we're here, right? Is to get.
And if she does it really well, we can even mention her in the annual report on staff support. Yeah.
Guess what?
Yes.
Lorraine has her hand up too.
All right.
Once you get that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Don, for clarification of the question that was asked, the people that you're asking for volunteers from, you will be writing the annual report from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. Is that correct?
Well, that is one of the things that they will be doing. That's the first duty, but they can start preparing for the 24, 25.
Right. But right now, yeah, so, but you're asking volunteers to write the report from that fiscal year that I mentioned. And then
That is one of the things. Again, this is not a committee dealing with just one report. This is a committee dealing with reports from now until the end of time, or when they get termed out.
I can make a specific commitment. I will commit to taking that Word doc of the 2018 report, going through and making it a template.
I was also gonna
Unless
say,
Tatiana wants to
I
do
kind
that.
of broke this down. I kind of broke it down. I'm like, there's about 23, 24 things here that we want to include. Some of them can't be done until the very end anyway. Like the summary really can't be done
No.
until the end. And if we split all of the other things up, that's about three things for us. I could research how many employees, the geographic boundaries, all of those different things. I could write reports on those things, and then we can all just submit them together and put them together. I think that would be a great idea.
Easy peasy.
Each of us member profiles, we could each submit our own profile to whoever's putting the report together. And all of us just take something. Some things can't be done until the end, and then we can come together and do it, but we won't know what the summary is until we're done.
Now, I'm gonna bring this up later, but I'll bring it up right now because it pertains here. Before I go to bed tonight, I will establish a Zoom account that we will own. Actually, I will own it, but we can share it with everybody so that you will have access to being able to work remotely with each other. But this also means that depending upon how many people we have involved, we may have to make it a Brown Act meeting, publishing an agenda and inviting the public to participate in it as well. I mean, those are legal formalities. I cannot imagine a whole lot of people beating down the door saying, I want to participate in your annual report meeting. Okay. But we have to follow certain rules. But again, we can do that, and that might make it easier, so you don't have to gather in one location. Although gathering in one location, sharing a piece of paper and saying, well, I think we should do this, do that. Sometimes it's helpful. But there are ways we can make this happen.
So I'm on board with dividing it up. I think it's a great idea. My question is just with some of the things, since if this is before we were here and others were here too, just being able to get access to that, which I'm sure we can easily do. But also I guess I'm having trouble wrapping my head around how to do some of these. Like it makes sense if I were to do it for 24, 25, because I was here, I heard all the reports,
Yeah.
saw it happening. So it's a bit more abstract, and I'm down to take a stab, but it also feels like maybe someone who was here could get that support. I don't know what happened, in 2024, so it's just a little bit harder to be able to report on it and form an opinion.
But I agree 1,000% on there. It makes it difficult when you were not a part of it. But a large part of the annual report, you didn't have to be here. Okay, but of course, the list of CBOC members, the geographic breakdown of WCCUS,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You didn't have to be here for something like that. But a lot of the information that you're talking about, I can provide access to.
Yeah.
I've attended every meeting.
Yeah.
For 22 years, okay? And with the exception of 2012, where that hard drive crashed the platinum, I've got copies of everything, but even that, yeah, I'm pretty sure you don't need 2012 on there. But do we just, tell me, what do you need? And they give me a chance to try to come up with it. Okay. All right, is there anything else on this?
So can we, this is a good start. We should probably kind of condense. We've talked a little bit about adding, combining certain points. And then I guess there's just, as long as we all understand what's involved, because, item 13, finances, is big compared to item 1, cover sheet, right? And obviously these are all not created equal, but how extensive are we, going into detail on some of these items, I guess.
Well, on the finances, for instance, how much you go into the individual numbers you're seeing on these financial reports is one thing. But I know that if I was reading an annual report about our bond oversight, I want to know what financial reports did we actually get? What did we not get? And the first one that annual report that we're talking about, we did not get financial reports for a lot of those meetings. are we supposed to oversee the bond program if we don't have the numbers to look at, the financial piece? But just reporting on that is important.
Yeah.
I go without going into a great deal of detail.
Yeah.
Because we have had for a very long time a suite of about half a dozen financial reports that we expect every month. We're missing 2 of them tonight. But yeah, just how much depth you want for any one of these items? That's up for discussion. Yeah. Okay.
One thing that might help is that, on the website for the CBOC, there is the record of most of the meetings. If you go to, the historic agendas, you can look it up by year. So for those that might not be familiar, if you go to this website, the historic agendas, meetings and recordings, you can look up by year, which would help, I would think, considerably to be able to get some of the information.
You're absolutely right on that. At the very least, the agenda packets provide information that we were supposed to be discussing at a given meeting. And unfortunately, the minutes don't always reflect the depth that we might want on that, but it is what's available. Speaking of that, I need to make
Because
sure
the
that,
agendas are here.
I need to make sure that, that the website shows all of our approved minutes for this year at least. I can't address things for previous years. Because that's something we've been derelict in since the beginning of time. We have draft minutes on the website where we always have the approved minutes. Not that they're different, but you don't know that. Very rare that we ever amend a set of minutes, but it has happened. Okay. And if there's nothing else on that,
Don,
yes,
one other suggestion is that you can do a lot of cut and paste. Like, for instance, when you're talking about the master plan, if you want to talk about the projects, Helen has already given a description of each project that we have. So you just have to figure out the time frame. And if it was done within that time frame, just cut her description out and put it in the report. Another thing is that the audits, you could go to the audit and copy the summary and just put that in the report. So there is a lot of cut and paste you can do.
I agree on that. On the performance audit, though, if the scope of the performance audit is limited, do we want to limit that for our annual report, or do we want to expand on that?
Well, you could have a section for concerns and then mention that in the concern, or mention it in the chapter on the audit.
There's all kinds of places where it can go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually kind of took it for myself to just kind of number the ones directly that we could have a template for. Because I do understand that the reports, different reports, we want to get personal. We want to make sure that those numbers are correct, the years and everything. But number one, there could be a template for that where we just change the picture. The format would be the same though. We could even change the color if we wanted to, but there would be a template for it already copied and pasted. Number three, an introduction page. Our introduction will be the same every single year. A template for that would be great. Number 8, board policy with regards to the CBOC. That's never going to change. A template that we could already have ready to go, copy and paste it there with the format. That would be great. Number 19, what reports are routinely covered in CBOC meetings? That's something that'll never change unless we get a new bond or something like that. And number 20, right? The member profile is just a template. Change the picture to submit our profile. Correct.
But to some extent, I mean, for instance, the items that are routinely covered in CBOC meetings has changed dramatically over the years. I mean, so it's
Absolutely, but if that changes, then we change it. But if not,
Yes.
that'll simplify it. We're talking about our capacity, right? And
Yeah.
how we are very, very short in numbers than we were before. So we have to do what's within our capacity. And if copying and pasting in this new age that we're living in is something that we can do, then why wouldn't we, you know? Everything else we can split up and we can each work on it, you know?
I don't understand why you're all not just jumping up and down. Me, I want to do this.
No, Sam, I am, but not for all of it. I can't, I don't want to commit to something that I can't complete, you know, and I think that that's all of our issues right now. But I can definitely take 3 or 4 of these off of everybody's hands.
Okay. All right, let's move on to the next item. Item N, CBOC membership. Gotta write things down. This is mostly just information, so you understand the process that we use. This is on page, well, it's not even a page, because there's no actual item on there, in there. Right now, there's an online application that people fill out. And I'm gonna explain what we're doing today versus way things used to be. And, what we may want to do is, if the membership, CBOC wants to advise the board, wants me to go on behalf of the board of the CBOC and advise the board that we would like to see something change on the application, that's something we can decide on. Okay, but, they used to ask for a resume. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Okay, aside from just 2 or 3 lines about why do you want to be on the CBOC, because that doesn't really tell you a whole lot. Okay, the applications used to go to the facilities committee, which was a public meeting. The applicant would go to the facilities meeting and be interviewed in public. Okay, the public would also be allowed to make comments on what they heard from you. Now, you've got a group of 2 board members, 2 CBOC members, and 1 staff person that meet in private. And they've got pretty much a set group of questions. Before, with the facilities committee, they had a set group of questions as well. So everybody was judged pretty much the same, apples to apples. And then but now the application is done in private. And up until recently, we never even saw the applications. We never saw what the person submitted on. Why do you want to be a part of the CBOC? Then these applications are brought before the board with a recommendation from the selection committee. I have a problem with calling it a selection committee because they don't select anything. Only the elected board members can make the selection. And this 5-member group can make recommendations. But I think that committee is a product of the new board policy, the latest version of the board policy. We used to do a lot more outreach. I used to go to every city council meeting. I'd go to the Kiwanis Club, the Rotary clubs. I'd take advantage of all the social media sites that we had, the Facebook sites. Back then we didn't have Nextdoor, but we do right now. Even right now, I go to these sites to try to get the word out. I get up before the city councils on a public comment to reach out to the public saying, we need more volunteers. It's very difficult to get the 5 mandated positions. Okay, you need a representative from the taxpayer organization, representative from a senior citizen organization, a parent with you're also a member of the PTSA. Sorry?
Not large community member.
No, the mandated ones.
Oh, I thought that was.
No, I mean,
In the senior tax. PTA.
no, yeah, it's if you get a member from the PTA, a parent of, owns the PTA, a parent that is not a member of the PTA. Anyway, you've got 5 mandated positions. I don't want to belabor this too much. It's always been difficult to find those people. There is no requirement in statute that any of those 5 mandated positions live in West Contra Costa County. We've had 3 representatives from the taxpayers associations over the years that have not lived anywhere near West Contra Costa County. It was always kind of difficult, for me to get my arms around somebody outside of our area coming in. They don't know our area, they don't know the people, they don't know the schools, they don't know the background, the history. They're interested in something very specific. We've also had problems with taking people onto the CBOC who came on with a very specific agenda. We had one of them, I won't mention his name on there, he admitted to us in his introduction, all I care about is the school across the street from where I live, where my little girl's gonna go to school. And as soon as they tore down that school, they put in portables, we never saw them again. Okay, so we've had too many people that on the CBOC, they don't care about the district as a whole as much as they care about the school that their kids are going to go to. But that's something difficult to work with during an interview process. A lot of times they don't bring that up. They all sound good, like good candidates, good applicants on there. But I said, in our agenda packets right now, I make sure that I include a copy of the relevant information on the agenda packet. Okay, it's actually 4 or 5 pages with a lot of redacted stuff that you don't need to know. I'm just gonna combine it into one page, the stuff that we all need to know. Because we don't include a person's address or phone number or email address, unless they want to share that with the public. But so we are down right now to only 7 members. We need to get a taxpayer representative. We have an applicant, that's a step in the right direction. But we need to get several more people. If that would bring us back up to 8, we need to have 11. It's a lot easier to get a quorum when you've got all 11 people. All right, you can suffer the temporary absence of somebody when you've got more people in there. But also it gives us more diverse views on everything. You don't want just a group of 5 or 6 people looking at everything and passing judgment on it. Okay, but now we also need to make sure that the members that we have on the CBOC are able to show up in person as much as possible. We can't have the missing people, the absences. It hurts us on there. When the performance audit was, the scope of it was enhanced beyond what it is right now. They used to ding us when we did not have a full complement of people showing up. It made us look bad. Okay, and you'd have reporters that would try to say, well, you couldn't have a quorum. It didn't matter if we had a quorum at every meeting. They would try to say, well, you were missing a person, so you didn't have a quorum. It made us look bad in the press. And they've got more ink than we have on that kind of things. Anyway, it's any thoughts that people have first on the outreach that we can expand on getting the word out to the
I
public?
have a thought, Don.
Sure.
I'm just gonna share, the process, selection process document that was shared with me by Louis Rees, year plus ago. I think if we just look at it, if everybody can get on the same page as to what the process entails, and then we can offer comments or changes, bring it back for discussion and approval. And, that it is what it is. I think, there may be some tension or challenge about making that, actually implementing our changes, but I think it would be good for everybody to be very clear on the process, and then and then agree on, make sure we have agreement on paper, what we all, support.
I agree with that. A fair amount of it. I don't know what's on that document. If you want to share that with me, I'd love that.
Yeah.
I've never seen that.
I'm
But-
sharing it now, so.
Okay, but a lot of it is board policy. That committee, and who makes up that committee, for instance. Back at the time when they, during the pandemic, they got rid of all the committees, facilities committee, the governance committee, the bylaws committee, all that kind of stuff. and they've reinstituted a number of them. They don't have facilities committee back, one that they did not have. But, and even these committees, they're only made up of 2 trustees, and that committee makes recommendation back to the full board. They don't have the authority to make any decisions themselves, because that's only 2 out of the 5. So anyway, anybody else have thoughts?
I'm just wondering what the action item is for
Well,
the,
if we wanted to take action on anything.
oh,
I didn't want to cut the legs out from underneath the possibility of taking action.
okay.
Okay? Then move on to the next item, site visits. We have the Shannon multi-purpose room cafeteria. We've got Lake Elementary School. When are we supposed to be done with that? When are they gonna cut the ribbon?
The kindergarten, we're trying to have completed by the start of school next year. And the multi-purpose room, it would come a few months after that.
Of Lake?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanna make sure we're back on the Shannon multi-purpose room.
Oh,
Okay, no,
Shannon multi-purpose room will probably be similar to the Lake multi-purpose room.
okay. All right, we've got Stige. We've been told we're not gonna be allowed access to Stige, but we also have Kennedy High School and Richmond High School as options. But I don't know who is interested in these site visits. We'll ask that in a few minutes. But for the most part, we're talking about a neighborhood of 3:30 and later in the afternoon. We have limitations. Not only staff wants to go home, but we can't be doing it too late where it gets too dark. Now, we're getting into a time of year where the sun is up longer until 8 o'clock or later, so that's helpful. But I mean, I know I want to see these schools as much as possible, but I don't know if anybody else cares about that. Okay. So we are without a quorum right now. Oh, no, we still have Lynn on there, sorry. So we have a quorum. My apologies. Are either of you 2 interested in site visits?
I am, I would say personally, I go to all these sites all the time anyways, just for my work, so I would show up, but I'm not as like, it's not like I'm not going to the site, so I would definitely show up to see it from a different perspective. I wouldn't want to organize around me though. Because I'm at this school.
I mean. Anybody that wants to, I mean, I want to accommodate them as much as possible. You gotta try to mesh schedules with everybody. Shannon, what we were talking about, interest in site visits. Are you interested in seeing these site
I
visits?
like that, yeah, I love the site visits that we've gone to previously, I appreciate them.
Okay, Shaw, are you interested in site visits? Would you be able to make them?
No,
Okay,
thank you so much.
yeah, if you are, we want to accommodate you, but I know you got a tough schedule.
Yeah, so far this one, this Bridgemont side.
Okay, and I know you're interested now.
Yeah.
Where do we stand on your, Friday right now, this week?
This week is on Friday,
It means you gotta work this week.
correct?
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna mark this on my calendar.
I'll send it to you in email too.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I believe Friday of next week, I could be at Stanford all day. So that's a problem.
I was just gonna make a recommendation, if staff could throw some times and dates out. Or how would you,
So
what's ideal in terms of supporting these?
it's very difficult for us to do site visits while school's in session because most of these schools are active and there's parking problems. And then also if you're earlier in the day, we're in the middle of construction, which is a little bit more complicated for us to get you guys through the sites. So my recommendation would be if we were doing either 3:30 or 4 o'clock, which day of the week would work for you guys? And like Don said, it's starting to get darker later, so we could even probably go to 5 if that works. I'd be willing to go from 5 to 6 at these sites. So if that works for people, which day of the week would that work best for folks? Cause I think it
Monday,
worked
Wednesday,
better when we
Thursday.
kind of had a cadence of the site visits and we just preset the days and when people could come, they could come.
Yeah, I apologize, but I'm gonna be selfish. I want to attend them all, so, but I've got my own limitations. Tuesday nights, three Tuesdays out of the month, I've got a city council meeting that I have to be at. Wednesday nights, we have a lot of school board meetings,
True.
yeah, twice a month in the neighborhood. That not only is difficult for me, yeah, Ellen and the rest of the staff have to be there. Some of my Fridays, I've got to work. I take track and field photographs. In fact, I just had one published in a worldwide publication this morning. Yeah, made the girl look good. But I mean, it's the logistics of trying to arrange things for all of us can be difficult, but we do everything we can on that. You were gonna say something?
I was gonna say, the most important person is staff to be there. Because without staff, we can't do it, right?
Right.
So if staff says these 3 days in the next 3 weeks would be ideal, then we can kind of respond to that. And then I would say, my plea to you, Don, would be, if one person can attend, I think unless we can find another day in close proximity, we do these things so that we have more of these things on the books. We get, because not everybody's gonna be able to go to every one. That's what I was trying to do last year, is kind of, well, if one person can go, it's worth it, especially to make sure every member can get to go to a site visit. And then, I think we could do some work to kind of, take, structured notes or something, so that we can kind of report back to the committee and whatnot. But I think the big thing would be just like get them scheduled and make them happen, regardless of how many of us can.
The one thing I found, not just on this committee, but on a lot of others, each of us is looking at things through a different set of eyes. I mean, I was chair of the Point Melody Restoration Advisory Board for 13 years. And I knew industrial things. Well, a lot of things had to do with the flora and fauna. I know there are two types of plants. There's green plants and there's ones I have in my yard, which are brown plants. But we had all kinds of other people that could identify all 218 species of plants that we saw there. And I never would be able to do that. It's handy to have more eyes looking at these things, because we're looking at it through different sets of eyes. But anyway, I will try to work with Ellen and see what is available for us in the very near future that we can try to arrange some of these visits. Especially, one of my primary ones is Kennedy High School. I want to make sure that I visit before they start tearing it down. Okay. All right, why don't we move on? Item number P is on Zoom recordings. Brendan brought up how important it might be to have Spanish language recordings that are available. And I need to find out what it's going to take, whether it's even possible for us to get these so that we can offer them to the public. I think it's a good point that you brought up. When I brought it up to Melissa when it was brought up the first time, she didn't know. She's not here to be able to respond to that. I will approach Dr. Moses about that as well, find out if it's even possible. I just don't know. You want to add anything to that?
Just, Ellen, do you have any ideas, or do you know maybe you don't know the answer to the question. But if there's Spanish translation at the board meetings, right? We know that.
So it looks like, according to Google AI, can be dangerous, can be great, you never know. But it says, yes, you can record Zoom meetings with the language interpretation, but the recordings will depend on your settings and the type of recordings you choose. Cloud recordings include both the original audio and the translated audio. But if you record locally, which for Reader's Digest facts, currently I'm recording locally, you may need to select the language you want to record. So we can try next meeting to record in the cloud. And it sounds like if I record in the cloud, and Dawn, are you recording in the cloud or are you recording on your?
On my computer.
Okay. We could try it next month and we'll record in the cloud and we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
But it sounds like it can be accessed both ways, and once it can be accessed both ways, we could have our communication staff post it.
Can we make a request to the communication team or to IT
Confirm.
to confirm or just get us support?
I can try.
An easy peasy alternative. I need to set up a digital recorder right next to our table.
There's gotta be a button. to
It
press.
sounds like cloud recording is the way to go.
Yeah,
So I typically record locally, because we have restrictions on how many cloud recordings I can keep without deleting them. But I will do that next month and I will just be managing my recording files. So IT doesn't get mad at me.
but we're not aware if the board meetings are also provided recordings in Spanish.
I do not believe they are.
I don't think so either.
I've not seen that. Although now that you bring it up, I can mention that to the communication staff, and that might be a nice addition. to our
I
board
mean, it
meeting.
seems like a glaring omission on the whole accessibility goal.
I mean, I don't think we have nearly as much demand at our meetings for Spanish. I think it's important to have it, but at the board meetings, you gotta be there to see how many of the people in the audience are wearing the translation devices. So I think it'd be very valuable for the board meetings. Again, that's,
Yeah, and maybe
Their
there's
issue.
because there's no supply either.
Yep.
You know.
yeah, so, okay, anything else on that? Any public comment?
I do
Nothing?
not see any public comment.
Okay. All right, very brief chair report, and I do mean very brief. I like the fact that we've got 10 minutes left and we only got 2 items left on the agenda, but one of them's a 15-second one. And that was this one. Yeah, I don't want to take any more of our time than necessary. We have 2 main issues of concern to me. The first is that we're falling farther behind on some of our work. Keeping our meetings to 2 hours limits how much we can actually discuss. Previous 3 meetings, we had to defer items. This time is the first meeting in a long time, we are not deferring anything. In particular, our annual reports, our bylaws, and possible amendments to the board policy covering the CBOC will require extensive discussions. I will agendize this at our next meeting where we can consider the possibility of an additional meeting or 2. We won't need staff for these meetings, just access to the room. Okay, and if I have the Zoom account, we can, again, make it available. But again, we'll have a further discussion at the next meeting on that. Second item has to do with communication. This is where I need your help. I send out emails and texts about issues, sometimes asking for a response. But I rarely get those responses and it hurts our ability to conduct our business. For instance, I asked everybody, will you be at this meeting tonight? If we weren't gonna, we knew we weren't gonna have a quorum, then I was gonna stop working on the agenda packet. A lot of work, but I just didn't get the responses back from people. Okay, I need your help with this. What I'm asking is for each of you to actually check your texts and emails, and if I ask for your thoughts and opinions on an issue, for you to actually respond. You help me, it will be a benefit to us all. Okay? 1 second, I need to flip to a last page here on future agenda items. Where are we at here? Okay, that's page 81 of 81. Okay. We talked about the site visits. And again, we discussing the Spanish translation of recordings. We brought that up again. It's an ongoing issue. Also expanded communication between the CBOC and the public and staff. We need to have a discussion about just how much communication do we actually have? Can we reach out to the senior staff people, I mean, to the superintendent or other people at that level or lower, to the board members? Are they picking up the emails and responding? The communications team, we have access to them, so we can communicate with them. But do we have any other future agenda items that people would like brought up? Brendan?
I would like to, I mean, it's connected to that last one where I would like to invite back the communications staff. Because we probably have a lot to talk to them about, in particular about the website. I think there's lots of opportunities. I know that the district was undergoing kind of a refresh the website, get an update on that. Where do we fit into that? What do we want to do with our website, to make it, relevant, current, accessible, etc. So that's one kind of a communications team invitation with the website focus as well.
I will extend that invitation. As far as, right, last time I heard, it may have changed, there are only 2 people in the communications department now. That's, it's hard to get anything done. Rachelle Forrest and I can't remember the name of the other.
We have 3.
3, okay, wow, 50% increase already. Okay, but anyway, I will extend an invitation to Rachelle, which means we will most likely have to carve out a specific time. And I say, okay, you, at 6:30, wherever we're at, we'll talk to her, because I'm sure she'll want to do this by Zoom from her own home or whatever. But we can accommodate that, just like we do with the auditors. Okay, you had another item?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Anybody else have any future agenda items? Okay, if there is no complaint, argument, challenge, we will be adjourned at 8:15 p.m. We actually got good work done today. Thank you very much.
Hey Brendan, I saw you shared the drive. Are all the past packets on there too, or that would be gone?
Sure.
So I shared the,